The Wicked Will Rise, Chapter 4. I surprised myself at how strongly I felt about it. The truth is, I'd never totally trusted the Order myself. Because, sure, Dorothy was evil, but who's to say they weren't more evil? They used to be wicked witches, after all. Who's to say they weren't still? But look, you have to be loyal to something, right? I might have my own doubts about Mombi and the rest of them, but I had thrown my lot in with them, and I had to stand by my choices. Queen Lulu was giving me a dubious, I've got your number kind of look. Don't give me the babe in the woods act, babe, she said. Let's just say you and your wicked little friends do manage to kill Dorothy. You'll think I'll be the one resting my hairy hiney on that shiny emerald throne? Not a chance. I've dinged enough dongs in my day to know that I'll be the same as it ever was. Maybe worse. Meet the new witch, same as the old witch. As she's been talking, Queen Lulu had been working herself up into a frenzy. Now she sprang up to her feet and bared her teeth, her sunglasses askew. I knew I should have just nodded and agree with her. I wasn't going to change her mind. And she looked about one wrong word away from swinging across the room and wrestling me to the ground. But I've always been pretty bad at shutting up and smiling. Come to think of it, that might have been the part of how I'd gotten into all this in the first place. What about Ozma? I asked. Things were good when she was in charge, right? Not all leaders are the same. Lulu cackled uproariously. She laughed until she was wheezing, and then, when she was tired out, she collapsed back into her seat and kicked her legs up. Sure, Ozma was a doll way back when, but we all know that Broad's about 6 stamps short of first class these days. She's great if you want to hear a whole lot of nonsense, but she's not exactly monarch material, am I right? Okay, fine, she was right. But that didn't change my point. So what? Should we just be on our way then? Don't get all bent out of shape. You and Miss Princess can stay as long as you want. I do have my principles after all. And anyway, I'm a big softy, and I don't want any trouble. And that means no magic while you're here, got it? We don't go in for that type of thing, and I know the kind of magic you do. Fine, I said. No magic. Queen Lulu looked pretty much totally unconvinced. Show me your hands. My hands? You think I was born yesterday? For all I know, you've got your fingers crossed behind your back. Don't think you can pull one over me. I stared at her. Next, was she going to knock twice on her throne and call no takebacks? But as ridiculous as it all sounded, I could tell from the way she was glaring at me that she meant business. I dutifully held my hands out to show that I was on the up and up. Lulu cleared her throat like, I'm waiting. I sighed. I promise not to use magic while I'm in the Queendom. Queendom of the Wingless Ones. No take-backs, I added for good measure. At that, the Queen nodded smugly, and she picked up her fan again. She fluttered it in her face. Very well, she said. Now, if you please, I must meet with my High Council. I'm a very busy majesty, you know. I turned to leave, and then, with my hand on the door, I thought of something and spun around. Have you heard anything about the Order? I asked. Not a peep, she said dismissively. They're probably all pushing up daisies. Now skedaddle. You must have heard something, I pleaded. Mombi told me nothing happens in Oz without the wingless ones getting wind of it. When in doubt, lay it on thick. That was a lie, of course. Mombi had never once mentioned Queen Lulu. But royal types can never resist flattery. Lulu's eyes softened. Well, she mused, it's true that I try to keep up with the latest news. The Order isn't the only one with spies. Even up here, it does pay to have the scoop. And I am the Queen. Please, I pushed. I just want to know. I need to know where they are. Lulu just sighed. Sorry, Toots, she said. Only thing I know is that your hag Mombi worked her old abracadabra and went right up in smoke. Took her pals with her. Poof! All I've heard since were the sweetest nothings. What about... I started. She put her hand up to stop me and checked an imaginary watch on her wrist. I believe my next appointment is coming up, she said irritably. Now shoo, I'm a very busy monarch. If you want someone who can sit around making small talk, I'll try the Duchess of Tree People. She's the biggest blabbermouth you'll ever find. When I still didn't move to leave, Lulu's patience finally decided she was over it. "Begone!" she yelled, picking up a banana and hurling it across the room like a boomerang, aiming right for my face. I ducked, just in time for it to bounce off my head. I was done. I'd heard about the types of things monkeys like to fling, and I was pretty sure I was getting off easy with just a banana. This was my cue to leave. But as I was heading out into the night, ready to make my way back down into the jungle, I heard a rustling in the trees, and then the low chirping of monkey voices. The Queen's Council. I couldn't quite hear what they were saying, but from the tone of their whispers it sounded important. I knew I had promised that I couldn't help myself. It came so easily this time that I barely even thought about what I was doing. I felt myself sinking into the shadows. As 4 monkeys approached the Queen's chambers, I slithered after them. They let the door slam shut behind them, and didn't even notice when I passed right through it. Everything was different in my shadow world, wherever it was. It was sort of like back home when we tried to steal cable from the trailer next door and everything came out kind of staticky and garbled and sometimes upside down, but you could make it out if you kind of squinted and moved your face really close to the screen. The Queen's throne room flickered and wavered, but I saw 4 monkeys clustered around at her feet. At first it sounded like they were all speaking some other language, but the longer I listened, the more I was able to catch snatches of the conversation, until finally I managed to make some sense of it. "We cannot leave her here," a monkey in green corduroy overalls and a propeller beanie was saying. "You didn't see her—" Lulu waved him off. "I wish I had," she said. "You want the truth, I wish she'd finished him right off. The lion can rot. See if I care." "You don't understand. She was not human. Something overtook her, a darkness unlike anything I've ever encountered." I jolted. They were talking about me. Even though I had some idea of how I'd looked when I had been fighting the lion, I didn't like to hear it described like this. But it was true. I had touched the darkness, and I liked it. And as much as I wanted to think that it was just the case of getting carried away in the fight, it wasn't so simple. How could it be when I was watching them through this cold, eerie veil of shadows? "I must agree, Queen Lulu," said a monkey in a curly red wig. "Princess Ozma is one thing, but the presence of the other one puts us all in danger." "She is enough," Queen Lulu snapped. "I'm the boss, Applesauce, and the boss lady that made up her mind. This little witch stays. The princess stays. I have my reasons. Now, tell me what you hear of the rest of Oz. Has Dorothy been found?" A monkey wearing a pink velour sweatsuit rose up to her feet. "We believe the Princess Dorothy has fled the city along with the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodman. No one has seen them since last night." "Glinda?" "Glinda was gravely wounded in the battle and is thought to have returned to her fortress." "Oh, of course," Lulu stiffed. "That witch talks a big game, but she couldn't be a bigger candy ass if she dropped her pink little undies and sat in a pile of gumdrops. Now, what about the rest of the witches? What about the Order?" I held my breath, and then realized I had no breath to hold. When I was a shadow, I didn't have a body. The Monkey Council exchanged a look amongst themselves. "We," the one in the sweatsuit began. "We don't know. They may be dead or they may be alive. We simply—" Lulu screeched and gnashed her teeth, waving her fan wildly. "If I wanted a load of bologna, I would have had a cold-cut platter brought in," she screamed. "Are any of you going to tell me something useful?" Finally, the smallest of the monkeys, a tiny marmoset in a fez and a red bolero, who had been silent until now, spoke up. "Funny things are afoot across the land, Your Highness," she said carefully. Queen Lulu raised an eyebrow, which was strange because until that moment I hadn't realized that she had eyebrows. "Funny ha-ha?" she asked hopefully. "Not exactly. Funny strange. As we suspected, the magic that Glinda and Dorothy have been siphoning off seems to be coming back. We believe it has something to do with the actions of the Order. They must have destroyed some mechanism that was piping it into the city. It's having some odd effects. We need to be aware of it, because if it causes any disruptions in our home." "More magic," Queen Lulu said. "Whoopee. Just what we need." But my ears perked up. This was the first time I heard of anything like that. I thought that last night was just about killing Dorothy. No one had told me about any plan beyond that. There's something else, the monkey in the bolero said. With Dorothy and her allies gone, it's unclear who is occupying the palace, but something is happening there. Cut to the chase, please, Lulu said. I don't know what something means. What's happening in the palace? The monkey looked nervous. Well, she said, for one thing, it seems to be growing.